Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Giant Pod with me, Andy Rintmore. My guest this week is Jake Hight from the Gundhi Brothers and Alien Jake. Jake is a hip-hop artist. We get into talks about James Brown. We talk about our mutual admiration for Robin Williams. We talk about lateness. We talk about messy workspaces. We talk about committing to brushing your teeth. We talk about all kinds of things, hip hop, the history of the Gundhi Brothers, music videos. We talk about punk rock, and we get to hear Jake's story about the time he was extorted at gunpoint up a Moroccan mountain by the Mafia. All that and more in this week's pod. Here it is. Although his he was on that show with Justin Lee Collins, wasn't he?
Was he?
They did the Friday Night Project, another gem of British TV until Justin Lee Collins' unfortunate escapades.
What happened to him?
There was a recording that came out, was leaked.
There's always a recording,
of
isn't
him
there?
sort of berating his wife, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was a bit abusive. Well, I say a bit. I don't want to downplay it, but
there was abuse involved.
Essentially, he was abusive,
and he was a central party.
He was the he was the party. Yeah.
Oh dear.
We
should be careful, mate. We shouldn't be referring to abuse as a party. You know, it's really not. It's not a
party.
It's not a party.
No. And he was, and what was really interesting about his story was that he was kind of like the last guy you'd think would do that.
He seemed a bit of a gentle giant,
Hello,
didn't he?
mate. Yeah, but I can't do a Bristolian accent very well.
All right, I'm Justin.
Oh, Justin Lee Collins, let's get the 18 back together. And then
got me beard, got me long hair, I'm harmless.
Yeah, and just like seemed like a bit of fun.
Yeah,
the guy you'd have down the pub with you.
Yeah.
But behind closed doors, he was an asshole.
Yeah. Many, I mean, it seems that there are a few of those, you know. Unfortunately, what goes on behind closed doors is we are not privy to.
Not always. Yeah, I was talking about this earlier with someone, and he said he was really into. Oh God, I can't remember who he said it was. Is it Rolf Harris?
Was that when you were talking to
Peter.
That was Rolf Harris that came up as a sort of tragic.
Yeah, and then he said it was a musician he really liked, who he saw a documentary on him not that long ago.
James Brown?
No, I brought James Brown up. I can't remember who it was now.
James Brown's a weird one though, because as much as he wasn't like, you know, a bit of a twisted and kind of highly egocentric guy.
Yeah.
He did, and I'm not making excuses.
Yeah.
He did have an incredibly messed up childhood, you know.
I don't know much about his childhood.
You don't know much about his childhood.
I'm sure
He grew up in a brothel.
Oh.
He lived basically in a shack with his mum and dad.
Oh.
And
I think this is ringing a bell. Yeah.
Have you seen Get On Up, his biopic?
I haven't seen the biopic. I watched a documentary on Netflix with him in it, and they essentially went into him his physical abuse towards his girlfriends and stuff.
Yeah.
There's a scene where someone says that he came and sat next to them at a hotel swimming pool and said, "I just hit whoever it was," and he was like, "You should never do that." So that was a strange part of his character. He knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
Yet he kept doing these things.
Yeah, he kept repeating it.
And his advice to the younger men that looked up to him was like, this is my fucking bullshit. Don't do this.
Interesting, man.
Yeah, weird.
But I mean, yeah, he grew up, his mum left him and his dad to basically be a prostitute. And then he ended up working in that brothel where his mum was a prostitute. And they used to use him and other young kids as they'd make them do like boxing matches and stuff, and like basically use them for entertainment to like beat each other up. It was
wow.
It was dark. Watch the film. Watch
dark.
the biopic, man. It's pretty heavy.
Richard Pryor, the comedian, had a very similar upbringing, I believe. He lived in a brothel. Yeah, that will make you something, won't it?
That'll make you a character.
Yeah. Wow. Jake Hight.
How do you want to do this, mate?
How's it going?
It's all right,
Got the little
bruv.
preamble out the way there.
Yeah.
Went down some dark holes immediately.
Who knows, mate? Who knows where we could head?
It's all up from here, mate.
Yeah.
It's all on the way up from here.
I like that.
How was your train on time?
My train was on time,
Yeah.
which is a one-off. You know, usually I'm bound to the time principles of the trains, which is erratic,
Yeah.
to say the least.
It's relevant, isn't it? So
Yeah.
Some sort of timeline of theirs.
I mean, it obviously works for them because it's still packed every day. But
Yeah.
you know, I've been trying to shred my reputation as someone being late. Get in a massive shredder. No, I've been trying to shed it for a long time, mate. And the
Me
train's
too.
really not doing me any favors.
Doesn't help you on that quest.
Have you got a car? How do you get around?
I walk.
Yeah, I walk.
Yeah, I get around. I walk very fast because I'm always late.
Yeah, same as me, mate. Same as me.
I blame my ADHD on that
Okay.
because there's a thing that with ADHD, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's essentially where you judge time slightly warped.
Yeah.
So I'm always about 5 or 10 minutes late. And
Yeah.
I've been trying to mitigate that, but it's difficult because it's literally how your mind processes or envisions it's quite an abstract thing, isn't it? Because time is a man-made
Concept.
it's a measurement, isn't it?
Yeah.
And for a human brain to then sort of
Work out how
Yeah.
far it's going to take you to
map
get from
it.
A to B.
map your it's kind of, when you think about it, there's some advanced stuff going on there.
If I propel myself at 13 miles per hour for the duration of this walk,
It's like
I'll be able to make it in 13.4 minutes. And
yeah. If Andy and Jake start walking from Frome to Bath at 2 p.m.
after having 3 pints of beer,
and 1 packet of mixed nuts, you know,
oh god,
with one stop of approximately half an hour, walking, you know, it's a GCSE maths question.
by what time will they finish their gig?
Will they make sound check?
Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. It is a weird one, and my girlfriend actually always says to me that she thinks one of the reasons I have that tendency is because, and I'm sure you're similar in the sense that I immerse myself in whatever I do. So if I'm in the shower, I'm fully immersed in that experience. You know, if I'm cleaning my teeth, I'm almost meditatively finding each, you know, canine with my bristles. It's
Yeah.
like
You commit.
I commit, and then suddenly I snap out, and I'm like, okay, how long did that take? Felt like about 2 minutes, but it was actually 10.
Yes,
You know?
that is exactly it.
Yeah.
and it comes with being a musician as well. There are so many musicians late to everything,
Notoriously.
and I think it has something to do with the way our brains are function, the chemical, the pH balance of our damn minds.
I think you could be right. Unfortunately, bosses aren't,
They're not that way inclined, are they?
No.
They're different beasts.
They don't quite understand that. I think if I went to a boss and said, look, I'm sorry, mate, I was cleaning my teeth, I got fully immersed in the experience, they'd tell me to bugger off, wouldn't they? They tell me to piss off.
And
So
they go, I cleaned my teeth this morning,
yeah.
and I didn't get immersed in the...
I got a stopwatch by my toothbrush. I bash it as soon as I start. 30 seconds, that's all you need. Bang, off. Drink the coffee. 20 seconds, bang, done, in work.
Bish, bash, bosh, mate. Yeah.
Oh, we should make a song about that.
Bish, bash.
There could be one part of the song
Yeah.
which is like a sequenced, very on beat, very I do work this way. This is how long everything takes, almost
Yeah.
a bit robotic. And then you could cut to a kind of dreamy, I brush my teeth and feel all the bristles. When I speak, sometimes I hear a whistle. You know, just like...
And then the whistle comes in, like a factory
Yeah,
whistle.
yeah.
I do the things that
That would be jokes, man.
The beat needs to be hard for that.
Yeah.
4 on the floor.
4 on the floor.
Yeah, I
what
guess
I
what it is we march to the beat of a different drum.
Yeah,
Jake.
we do.
That's what we do. And it's also, I think, something to do with the artistic mind as well. In that, like, do you have messy workspaces?
I have. They're not tidy.
Right.
I try and create some sort of system, and I try and keep it not to the point where, I mean, my brother, and I used to be like it as well. It was just an absolute bomb site.
Yeah.
I try not to do that because then that can kind of have the opposite effect, and
It can make things more chaotic.
yeah, to the point where there's not actually anything getting done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I like to have, but it's, by no means I've got my, pencils lined up and my sharpener and it's exactly right spot. It's not tidy.
Yeah. Have you seen that picture of Einstein's desk the day of his death, the day after he died? They preserved it, and it is just the biggest mess I've ever seen.
Wow.
Well, maybe not the biggest mess I've ever seen, but it's stacked with papers, just everywhere. It's such a mess. And the theory there is that his brain is operating on such a high level, and he's thinking in so many abstract or pioneering ways, let's say, that actually the order of his desk and the cleanliness and there it is.
Oh wow, I love that.
Yeah. Madness. He knows where it all is.
Even the whiteboard,
but his brain is prioritizing what's important.
Sure.
And tidiness is not important because his brain is figuring out.
For it.
Right, he's figuring out relativity. Was he black holes? It was his thing that led Stephen Hawking to theorize black holes. Right?
He was the gap, wasn't he? Yeah.
So his brain is going, why are we spending time on this task that brings no stimulation, no inspiration to me when he has the universe to try and figure out?
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it as well. Is why are we going to do this when we've got all these daydreams to be flying off to and committing ourselves to clean our teeth?
You saying we're geniuses, Andy? Is that what you're getting at?
Absolutely. What I'm saying is that I feel like I do the same. I let it build up, and I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it until it's at a point where I go, this is now hampering.
Sure.
And then I have a reset.
Yeah.
And then it goes again. I don't mind it until one day it goes, no, we've got to do something about this.
Yeah. No, I think I'm something fairly similar.
Yeah.
It really depends on the task though, doesn't it? Because if it's purely creative, if I'm writing a song or it really doesn't matter where I am,
Yeah.
Whereas if you're doing something slightly more academic, like an essay, then suddenly I think my brain goes, okay, we need some sort of system here to be able to, efficiently work through this.
Yeah, my brain doesn't necessarily. I mean, we were doing a template email earlier when we were waiting for you, and Harry gave me his Mac, and I was doing the template email to send off to dear such and such. We have got this podcast, blah blah blah. And I knew I could feel it. I get a line done, and I was going, just sitting there,
drum break.
I had like System of a Down drums in my head.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then I'd be like, right, another line. It's crazy.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if that was the way it worked?
Right.
One line followed by.
Then you get to reward yourself.
With a drum beat or a singular lyric, or whatever it is that helps you exude your passion.
Yeah.
The world would maybe be a better place. Maybe we should implement this at least every 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Every 20 minutes,
have a little
you
blowout.
Get 2 minutes for whatever you want to do. You got your drum kit over there, or you got a mic stand over there. Go on, bosh one out.
Yeah, when I used to have a drum kit in my house, it was great, and it sort of gave me a good idea of my my brain patterns with the ADHD. Is that I wouldn't play studiously for 3 hours in practice. It would be 5 or 6 sessions of really intense 20 minutes.
Yeah.
All over the place. And and you can kind of map your brain chemistry there, I think, in that, because I was like, right, it's time to go. And then
it's an interesting one.
And then you sort of you bust that out, and then you go and do something else.
It's almost your form of meditation, isn't it?
Almost. Yeah,
it's almost your 20 minutes where you
Maybe it wasn't even 20 minutes sometimes. Maybe it was just 5. Sometimes
Yeah.
just get behind there, thrash out for a bit.
It's like it's just a change in brain function, though, isn't it? To freshen things up, to keep it kind of. It's interesting. I wonder if that way of playing, kind of, because when I find the same thing when I put to the side, like, okay, I'm going to write lyrics for these 2 hours, or I'm going to practice this, for 2 hours. It feels more like work. It feels more like, okay, I'm here, I've got to churn this out. Like, whereas when it's like I'm on the bus and I'm just 20 minutes, just like doing something, I feel like it's a bit more. It's organic. A bit more freeing. Yeah, a bit more organic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did that begin? Let's start your journey, because where you are right now, you're in the Gundhi Brothers.
Yeah.
You guys are doing good.
Yeah, man.
You're doing good.
Yeah,
I've watched the trajectory.
I think we just love what we do, mate.
And it's really quite clear that you love what you do. There's no going through the motions with you guys.
No.
It's all PMA, isn't it?
PMA?
Positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
It's all about that PMA.
I've not heard that before.
Really?
I might start using that. My first thought when you said PMA was PMS. And I was like, God, is it PMS? Is this all just one big PMS session between me and Jay? But yeah, no. Honestly, when we first met, we literally. So I'll give you most people have heard this, but I'll give you a brief outline of where we met. I was going to meet my ex-girlfriend who was playing a gig, and it was a bit of like she was like, come to this festival, and our relationship was kind of waning a bit, and I was like, do I go? Do I want to save this relationship? Not really sure. Okay, I'll go.
Right.
And she introduced me to Jay, and I just hung out with him the whole festival.
And Jay goes by the name of Indian Man, is that right?
That's correct.
Right.
Yes,
So
Indian Man, a.k.a. Mr. Jay Singh, a.k.a. Jacket Man.
Any embarrassing ones?
He loves jackets. Well, Jacket Man's a pretty embarrassing one.
Right.
That was basically his chat-up line for the whole of the last 3 years. He'll go up to any girl and just go, I love your jacket. Bam, that's him. Anyone. If he says that to you, Andy, you know what he's up to. He wants you.
I know.
But so and he said, I'm playing a set. I'm mixing Bhangra and hip hop. Do you want to jump on it? And I was like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And that was it. It was like, it felt like, Tenacious D when they had the best song in the world. It felt like that. In reality, there was about 6 people off their face dancing there, but it felt like we were creating some mad musical fusion.
Yeah.
And that was it. We just started making music, and we do it because we love it. There's not really anything more than that. We're both pretty, we like to experiment with genres. We're both pretty open with trying new stuff, but also trying to find a sound at the same time, but like.
It's a hard road to walk.
Yeah.
It's tough, isn't it?
It is.
Because there's nothing new under the sun. It's an old saying that I like, there's nothing new under the sun.
So
you got to find the least old thing, I guess.
there's nothing like, you could probably find a band that has tried any combination of genres.
Yeah,
I guess, but there's still, I still hear. I obviously haven't heard 1% of everything, but I still hear things that make me go, oh, that's fresh, And sometimes you can't even put your finger on it. It might sound similar to another band, but there's something about it.
It's got a voodoo.
It's got a bit of voodoo in.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because the amount of promoters and managers and whatever have been like, oh, we love you guys, but we don't know where to put you. That little phrase.
Get out of here with that.
We don't know where to put you. And it's like, well, just put us on the bill.
Yeah.
Put us on the bill. That's where you should put us.
We will show you where we need to be.
Exactly. And I get that to a degree. They need to market it. If they're putting on a hip hop night, they want to they want us to do hip hop if they're putting, I get that to a degree, but at the end of the day, it's just music, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
What do you class yourselves as? Because I see you guys as a hip hop duo, a producer rap hip hop duo.
we are hip hop,
And you've
we're
just
hip.
got-
We're hip hop meets world music.
Yeah.
I guess that's what we call ourselves.
And you've just got flavors of other things,
Exactly,
right? But fundamentally,
because
it's
some of
hip-hop.
our songs aren't 90 BPM or 100 BPM, we
Right.
might make a couple of grime tracks, a couple of drum and bass tracks, whatever.
Yeah.
Suddenly it's like, oh, they're not hip hop anymore. They're making drum and bass, or they're not, they're grime or whatever. So
But then, you listen to 9 Inch Nails,
yeah,
and that people still will call them a metal band or a hard rock band or industrial or something. But
Mm-hmm.
essentially,
yeah. It's I don't know if you've experienced much of that. I feel like you've got a bit more of a honed sound
yeah, I think our sound,
of Sick Ones.
I feel like it's fairly original. We definitely grabbed from other places.
Yeah,
I think now it's original in the context of the scene.
yeah.
There's definitely sort of hallmarks of loads of stuff in it, like I said. But I feel the last few years, and definitely when we started out, we were doing stuff that it's kind of been done before. I think we kind of put a flavor on it that was our own. But it was, just an approach to that music that hadn't been done for a while. And sometimes that's valid as well.
Yeah.
Is you just go, well, okay, well, no one's doing this. They've done this style 20 years ago, and now it's kind of almost lost its way. And sometimes you've got to go back to the roots a little bit, haven't you?
No, I think I totally agree. I've been feeling, as we've kind of spoken about off air, very influenced by a lot of 90s metal recently, and kind of or even 80s 70s punk has felt quite relative for me at the moment.
It was the times we're living in. They must be manifest.
It is, isn't it?
There's obviously an anger, because we're seeing a lot of suffering in the world. We're seeing a lot of useless politics.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of dangerous politics.
Yeah.
We're seeing division and and even like on an ecological scale. It's all kicking off this year, and I think somewhere in you're taking all this stimulus in from the world,
Yeah.
and it's coming out via your subconscious or something. It's still a productive thing.
Yeah.
It's still a positive thing, but it's more of an aggressive outlet. Probably.
Yeah, it's a release, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a release of all these like emotions, feelings, thinkings. I think that's what I love about that sort of music. It's like
It's emotional, isn't it?
it is emotional.
Yeah.
It's emotional, but it's an emotional reaction to things that are rationally wrong. Do you know what I mean? So it's not just like an outburst of emotion. It's like, if we rationally talk about this,
It's harnessed energy.
yeah,
It's not it's not some sort of strange blowout,
yeah,
and it's not some sort of like kinetic explosion where it sort of fires off and doesn't hit any marks.
which
or meet
can also
anything.
make great music.
Yes, but the really great stuff is when they've managed to harness it and direct it like a laser beam.
Yeah. And
That's
you just
that's
can't
a
argue with it.
superpower.
Yeah, it is. It is a superpower. Have you ever had any people? Have you ever had any problems for being political, or people saying, "Oh, you're a bit too political"? Or
In what realm? The musical realm or my actual political realm?
I was thinking more musical, but
Musical realm.
either.
No, we've never really been massively political, actually.
I feel like your new stuff's a bit more political.
It's more like socio-political, or is
Yeah.
it, or it's about the politics of self. I think that. I mean, it sounds a bit. I say pretentious a lot on this podcast, I've noticed, but
Just have to
I'm just going to have to
accept
embrace
it,
the
mate.
fact
Yeah.
that sometimes I throw some things out there that some people are going to think are pretentious.
It's true.
It's more about the politics of self.
Yeah.
A lot of it. It's about and hoping that in those sort of mantras or those messages, other people find strength in that. But we do want to do something that's a bit more political, and I think this is where our conversations with you have come in, where we're thinking, hey, let's scratch a new itch And let's
Yeah.
do something. Let's try and get something with Jake. And if you want to be political, then be political.
Yeah, I just think that life is too short. You've got to say what's in there, don't you? You got to express these things. Otherwise, no one else is going to. Yeah.
So where does your journey begin in hip hop? Because I know we have a mutual friend that you give a lot of credit to, who started, who gave you that sort of early boot camp, let's say.
Yeah.
But when was the moment you were like, this is my music. This hip hop is. When is it?
I would say when I was about 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
And I'd been listening to a lot of, so my mum was kind of my black music influences, so old school soul, funk. I remember listening to acid jazz tapes in her car and like the Fugees and stuff, and we were driving to school. And then my dad was punk, the Stranglers, Sex Pistols, Killing Joke, more rocky kind of gritty side of the UK.
Punk, a lot of it.
Yeah, all punk really.
Yeah.
I think his favourite band was the Stranglers.
Yeah,
but anything that was remotely punk, he would attach himself to. The Damned, I guess, kind of first wave. Yeah. So. So I kind of had these two influences, and I think I started listening to Eminem mainly. He was the big one really. He was big I heard him on the radio and was like, who is this guy? And he almost felt to me like somewhere between the two.
Yeah.
His attitude was fairly punky, but his music was obviously hip hop and Dr. Dre and was therefore influenced by all these funky breaks. And so I think my subconscious kind of latched onto that.
Yeah.
I then did I used to write a lot anyway. I used to write poems and stories from the ages of like 4. And then 4 or 5.
Rewind.
When
4?
A bit older than that, maybe. As far back as I can remember.
So as
soon as I could write.
Right. So have you always been a fairly emotionally receptive being?
Yeah. HSP.
What's that?
Highly sensitive person.
PMA.
Let's see how many we can get, mate.
HSP.
I'm an HSP. Don't say that. I'm an HSP. I've always been pretty sensitive and receptive. So
is that? Do you think that's just innately in your nature, or is this been a nurture influence in your? It sounds like your mum's like wide open with her music, and your dad, of course. But like wide open with her music taste.
Yeah, I guess it's definitely
It's a project to get behind that.
Yeah, I guess it's just like, I probably both. I mean, my family are creatives pretty much throughout. They're like teachers. My granddad worked in publishing. They're all fairly creative in some way or another, and so I think as a kid I was also kind of just left to do what I want a little bit, and play, and my parents are fairly open, so I think in that sense I was given the space. But I also just, from whatever age I can remember, I was just fascinated by things. I was in my head a hell of a lot, just experiencing and making things up and basically playing until a fairly older age. I've always just had ideas and been creative and quite happy to live in sort of fantastical realms within my mind.
So were you like a social kid, or were you? I don't want to use the word loner because that has so many negative connotations. Because it doesn't seem like you were a loner.
Well, this is the weird thing. I wasn't
you were
until
happy
about
with yourself, right?
Yeah, I was a bit of a weirdo,
right?
But I think I kind of
Oh, we're all weirdos.
We're all weirdos. I kind of accepted that and allowed that within my friendships, you know. I kind of put it on show and was like, look, this is me. This is my weirdness. If you like it, let's roll. If you don't, like, you know.
This is my freak flag.
This is my
Here it's flying.
flag, my double F.
Look, my FF is out. And if you guys don't like it,
Yeah.
you know,
What are you going to do about it?
Don't be so, was it HSP? Let me say HSP, my FF is out. I'm all about that PMA, baby.
Oh, dear.
God, it's a vernacular.
Yeah, a course in vernacular, what's it called? Acrobatics, vernacular acrobatics.
Yes, a deep linguistic dive.
Deep linguistic dive.
Great. So you were just kind of cool with yourself. I tell you who else was cool with themselves. Robin Williams, apparently.
Yeah.
When he was a kid, he spent a lot of time on his own with his imagination as his like sort of backdrop to whatever he was doing.
You can see it in his eyes.
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean? You can see the way as an actor he is just lost in his mind, you know. I can see that.
Right.
Hope I don't end up like him though.
No, let's hope not.
He got a bit sad, didn't he? But
Yeah.
what an actor, what a legend.
He's got that very rare, a bit like Richard Attenborough. He's got this very rare thing where certain people of a certain generation, so our age, let's say, see a picture of Robin Williams, and we just go, "Oh, it's my mate." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You feel like you know him, don't you?
You look at him and you go, "It's my guy, Robin Williams." It's a very unique kind of celebrity he had, where I think it must be because his films and his successful family films. But you see him and he had that childlike quality and wonder, and he always managed to portray this sort of naivety and fun within his films that I just feel like people's inner child still kind of connects with him.
Speaks to them, doesn't it?
And to this day, I see pictures of Robin Williams and I think, oh,
even
my dude.
Even in sometimes the darkest situations as well, like Good Morning Vietnam, right? I mean, you don't get much darker than that place. And his kind of, or his character's determination to get in there every day and make people laugh. You know, it was almost like a comedy, and I've found this actually in the last few weeks. I've been watching a lot of comedy just because it really makes life worth living sometimes. Do you know what I mean? When you can laugh at something, and even sometimes the darkest things, you know. I've heard a couple of really dark jokes recently, and I just like, do you know what? It's humor, and it's beautiful, because if you can't laugh at it, what can you do?
Yeah.
You know?
Did you ever see his film 1 Hour Photo?
Yeah, that was dark. Yeah, that was creepy.
I feel like people don't know that film. Not many. And I just, it's a tragedy, because it's just, because he was one of those guys that could do, he could do Flubber, Mrs. Doubtfire, Hook. You know, he could roll with the best of them. And I'll just get you that. There you go. And so he could roll with the best of them in that regard. But then his dramatic roles were like him in Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But 1 Hour Photo is amazing. He's essentially this kind of loner guy that works in a photo booth, almost like what we'd have here in the UK, like Boots, where you go and like take your film roll and stuff.
Process it, and
he just becomes, and he doesn't have family, he doesn't have this life that he sees unfolding, and there's a family that always use him, and he's almost a bit like a family friend, but I think he imagines himself being way more important. And he makes copies of all their photos, and
he's got it all in his house.
If you're listening and you haven't seen that film,
it's creepy.
Get to it. It's madness. But how do we get on to Robin Williams?
I don't know.
So then you find hip hop. You find Eminem.
So I found Eminem, found hip hop. Interlude.
Back
return.
In.
Found hip hop. Found Eminem. Entered a fair trade rap competition which was my first meeting with Will as well. And between him and my dad, shout out my dad, they made this beat for me, which I rapped on about fair trade in an American accent, which was hilarious listening back to that now. And that was it, mate. I won the competition and just kept writing. Took a few years out when I was like 15, 16 and thought for a bit it was like, oh, well, it's not cool and like I'm white so I can't rap and, you know, all these like teenage musings that your brain goes through. And then I got back into it when, you know Tom Sturgis, Mr. Vane, graffiti writer, big, tall, ginger guy.
Oh, yeah.
So he had a shed that we used to hang out with and, you know, chill, get a bit high. And he was just like drawing graph all the time and playing hip hop. And I kind of, he used to play UK hip hop, which I really hadn't heard a lot of. And that got me into that. And I was like, okay, right, there are actually people in the UK doing this. And
it's not coming across as sort of corny or some sort of like poser wannabe.
No, it spoke to me because they were in, you know, similar situations or similar experiences that I'd had where, you know, whatever, you're working, grinding, trying to get by, trying to do the best you can, having a bit of fun in between, you know. I'd always, you know, I was still into hip hop, obviously. I was still listening to it, but I think I drifted from the American thing a bit because it's like, well, you know, I'm not a gangster with guns and hoes, you know. But the UK stuff spoke to me a bit more, and I started writing again, and we kind of formed this thing, TAF, with a couple of other mates who were graffiti writers and rappers. Shouts Finn McVeigh, and then that was it. Just been doing it ever since.
You were forming an art collective.
Yeah.
That's quite forward thinking, isn't it, really, for that? How old were you at this time? Like 15, 16 or 17, 18?
Bit older, yeah. 18, 19, I think, right. around those times.
Were you aware of, like, I'm going to use the word crew. Were you aware of crews at that point?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, we wanted to be the next Wu-Tang, you know. It was like, it was very much, I mean, it just started literally hanging out in my mate's shed.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I mean, I think the word crew is a bit of a glorification. You know, we didn't do much for quite some time, and then we started running some workshops because I think it was Tom's idea, and he was like, "How can we actually do something?" You know, we're all dossing about doing our art, which is great, but you know, we need something to pull us together. So we started doing workshops for kids, which is the TAF 4 Elements workshops. And, you know, me and Tom anyway, we're still doing them now every now and again. And we ran them at Shindig Festival for like 3-4 years running. Yeah. So it was a special thing. It's a special thing, man, using hip hop to speak to young people and creativity to speak to young people, you know.
Because hip hop gets or used to get a really bad rap.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun. It used to just like and I think it was that sort of that mainstream chart pushing of the 50 Cent, the gangster rap element of it, you know, or you can hear it's gunshots and hoes or whatever and that isn't actually what hip hop's all about.
No, it's ironic because hip hop started in the Bronx as a way of basically people avoiding those sorts of things. It was like you know, the conditions in the Bronx when it started were horrendous. There were, you know, fathers coming back or not coming back from Vietnam. There was a massive railway being built through the whole of the Bronx. There were fires going on. It was like a war zone. And, you know, a load of people just thought, well, we need something to smile about. And there was kind of this combination of the Jamaican influence, lots of Jamaicans coming over with their sound system culture. Graffiti came into it as well. And they used to create these massive, you know, I'm sure you've heard, these massive parties. Block parties, which were a DJ, an MC, graffiti, and breakdancers. And so the idea behind it was, it doesn't matter who you are or where you come and you express yourself and you have a good time, you know? And whether you're linguistically inclined, musically inclined, kinesthetically inclined, or visually inclined, there's something for anyone. Because the chance is anyone is inclined into one of those things, you know? Either you like music, you like dancing, you like speaking, or you like drawing, you know, pretty much anyone. So that's the idea. And yeah, it was to get people, you know, I mean, Africa Bambaataa created one of the first ceasefires between gangs. You know, it really was meant to be a peaceful movement. And then, of course, Hollywood got hold of it, realized they could make a load of money from it, and started pushing the gangster rap agenda. And here we are.
And here we are today, talking about it.
Yeah.
Damn. What I used to really love about, what I love about what they used to do was they would sort of hijack a street light.
Yeah.
So they'd take what's the word? If you steal a car, hotwire it.
Hotwire it, yeah.
So they used to kind of like hotwire their stuff to the city's grid.
Yeah.
And run their...
Use that energy,
Yeah. Power their turntables and their sound systems and whatever off of the street lights. It's just...
Grafters, mate.
It's great.
It's great, isn't it?
It's human spirit.
I wonder what would happen if, I guess it is kind of happening to a degree, but if we just started, you know, having block parties in Frome, I mean, they would immediately get shut down. But once you get a certain amount of people, there's not a lot the police can do, you know, because it passes a threshold, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I guess they're fining organisers like 10 grand and stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, what if no one was the organizer? It was just like, oh, I'm just turned up, you know. I'm just here with these 5 other people.
Devil's advocate.
These other people happen to be here, you know.
Yeah. And something was born.
Yeah.
But yeah, because we've had a few illegal raves here in the past.
Yeah.
Around the old Quarry Vallis area.
Yeah.
And it's true, yeah. As soon as there's a certain amount of people there, the police don't shut it down.
No.
Instead, they almost become stewards of it.
Yeah.
Very strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But a good approach, because you don't want riots, do you? And that's, I guess, kind of what they're risking.
Yeah.
If they do go in there all guns blazing.
I don't know. I've never seen 1,000 people on ecstasy riot.
You haven't been to Boomtown, mate.
I can imagine.
Oh dear.
So you win this fair trade rap thing. Do you think that was the confidence you needed? Was that like a very early example of like validation?
I guess so.
Of like, what you're doing is actually a good thing.
I guess so.
And the energy and the life force you've put into this is worth it. So keep investing the best of you in that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I guess the other things I was doing, writing like stories, plays, and drama. There's not, you know, because they're very creative, or you can get a pat on the back, but there's not generally prizes and stuff for that sort of thing, or there's not that extrinsic, like, you're good at this, you know. Whereas I hadn't really thought about it, but I guess that makes sense.
Deep dives
into
the psyche.
Andy and Jake. What about you, mate? Why drums for you? Where did that come from?
Oh, mate, so what happened is I started at Army Cadets. I had some friends.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And they was joining Army Cadets. And so my mum was like, do you want to join Army Cadets with Daniel and Bradley? And I was like, oh, I don't know. And she was like, well, you get to, you know, shoot guns and go camping. And I was like, sign me up. I'm there. And they had a thing called the Silver Bugles Band. And on the first night I was there that they did band, we all lined up near the stores, which is where they kept all the instruments. Most people were getting handed bugles, and other people obviously were established there and they had their instrument that was what they did. Yeah. And I was just in the queue and someone handed me a snare drum. That was it. That was that was literally it. I didn't choose it. Although weirdly, drum kits had always been in my mind's eye as something
like
within me
try.
was attracted to the idea of them.
Yeah.
They were always this sort of strange beast in my head. And I think it was because I knew I'd probably never be allowed one as a kid because they're far too loud.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my parents were probably a little bit conservative on that regard.
Yeah.
On that sort of subject. But so they were this sort of thing. They were a bit exotic, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I got handed this drum, and that was it. That was sort of the journey. And you sort of learn the grip and a bit of technique, and you develop a little bit of rhythm. I'm not going to say I was some sort of natural prodigy.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't the best drummer in the ranks. You know, but I was there, held my own, I guess. And then it just sort of like happened. I guess when I got to Frome College, there was a drum kit. And I got asked to sort of scream in this like metal screamo thing because I was one of the only kids in the year that liked metal music or heavier music. Yeah. So naturally you get invited into the band regardless of your skill level.
Yeah.
Or how good of an artist you might be because you're the only one of the only ones that likes it. So, and I sort of did that, and then the guy that was drumming didn't show up. And I went, oh, well, I'll do that. We kicked him out of the band, and it was so teenage. It was like, oh, he's not dedicated. He's out. Not here. He's out. And then his dad.
What was that?
What
was that band called?
And he wasn't there. I don't know what we called that. It developed into this thing called Scream 92, just like a Blink 182 because we were all born in 92.
Yeah, that's cute.
It was. There's a song called Love Doctor.
Oh,
Love Doctor, he hates me.
I want to hear that, mate.
Oh, no.
You've got to bring out the old tape.
There is a recording somewhere. It's proper lame.
Oh, that's great.
Proper lame. And all the drums are like, on the floor, 4 on the floor, That's all they are.
Well, at least you were keeping beat, mate.
I kept time, all right.
You kept time.
But so that was that. That was the beginning. But I think then the sort of that ADHD part of me enjoyed that very physical, very visceral, kinetic outlet.
Yeah.
And I just sort of got into it, but I didn't get into it in the ways that I've got into things like collecting CDs or TV shows or pop culture bits, where you really get in like a really nerdy, almost sort of on the spectrum autistic kind of like type of like deep dive, which I do have about many things because I'm definitely on the spectrum.
So,
but I don't go, this is a maple snare, I can hear it. Right. This is a that. I don't get into the gear.
That's
it's really strange, and I wish I would, but I don't. Like some guys, their kits are like their cars.
That can also inhibit you, though, can't it? Yeah. You know, because I've had times where I've like literally gone over my rhyme schemes. Yeah. And you know, you might have seen it. There's this technique where people like color in, you know, all the rhymes basically. And
you can see a video about B.I.G.
Exactly.
And exactly. They did that.
And actually there are some rappers that notoriously, like MF Doom is one, actually try and make physical patterns with the words that are coloured. It's pretty mad.
It's like a smiley face when it's on the page.
Yeah, exactly. Depending on what you want, or just as long as it's, you know, symmetrical or whatever. Yeah.
That's just a flex.
It's a bit of a flex.
At that point, isn't it? Now you're just showing off.
You're just wanking off, mate. You know, you're just. But I've gone down that road a bit, and it's fun. But it does disconnect you from, you know, there's only so much you can say. Exactly. Yeah. It just becomes almost lyrical jargon, which is fun and which is cool to watch someone do. Yeah. But I think when you can, you know, for me, what's important in a song generally is the feel.
The message.
It's all the feel and the message, yeah. And you have to sacrifice a bit of that when you go into the deepest realms of technical adherence.
Yeah, it's like a lot of jazz, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, these old school jazz musicians perfectly capable of writing the sweetest, gentlest, hummable tunes.
Yes.
But instead, they just go all out.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because sometimes you get to a point and you go, wow, how far can we push this?
Oh, totally. Sometimes it's fun. It's great. It's fun. It's another thing, isn't it?
But there are no jazz tunes like that which are like really saying anything.
No.
It's just prowess, isn't it? And I guess you have to figure out what you want to say.
Yeah. It's a funny one. I mean, we've had tunes as well our kind of big single on our next album, it started out. I mean, we started making it about a year ago, if not longer actually now, and we kind of made this demo, and we loved it, and we played it to everyone, and they loved it, and it was like, yeah, it's this great track. And then we showed it to Georgia Cook, who's the flautist in the Gundhi Brothers, G Cook, G Sharp.
How many members of the Gundhi Brothers are there?
Okay,
Because I feel like you're ever expanding, and I'm trying to keep tabs of it, basically.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's a weird one because obviously at the core there's me and Jay.
Yeah.
And when it comes to mixing down the tunes, when it comes to kind of making the final decisions, it's me and Jay. But we've got an array of other artists that I would say are a massive part of the group. We've got Hannah, or Kilmer, who does a lot of the singing on our tracks. She's got a couple of rap verses as well. We've got K-By, who again, he does a bit of singing, vocals, big influence as well on, the direction that we're going in, the feel for the tracks. We've got Levi, Tyler's younger brother, who does, between him, Kay, and me, really, we do all the videos all in-house. And our videos are a massive part of what we do, so he's huge. Then we've got Georgia, G Sharp, and she kind of going back to this, we give her all of our songs and she kind of tells us if they're musically correct or not.
Right.
And a few songs she'll just be like, no, that's not musically correct.
So
but then
she's
it's
like a musical director.
I guess so, yeah.
Right.
And then she just comes to our gigs without rehearsing with us whatsoever and just plays incredible flute over our tracks. She's like she's a bit of a genius. So
Right.
just an amazing person to have, and a lovable person as well. And then Margot as well, who's recently been jumping on a few tracks as well and giving us a bit of a different feel, which is great. So it's quite a big group and growing, really, which is lovely.
It's bloody lovely, darling.
It's bloody lovely, get everyone involved. That's what I say.
More the merrier.
But yeah,
MTM, more the merrier.
I wonder how many of these we're going to have, mate.
It's great.
MTM.
Your videos are a huge part of your thing, your project.
Yeah.
And the locations that you do your videos in have been stunning.
Yeah.
Absolutely bloody stunning, darling.
Thank you, darling. Thank you.
So run me through these videos. How many have you got now? I'm thinking, is there 10?
Yeah, there's got to be about 10. So we tried to make one for every track on the first album. We didn't quite manage to. It was ambitious. We wanted to make a video album, but one track didn't get made. We were going to shoot it at Boomtown, and then it rained the whole time.
Right.
And we were like, well, scupper it. We'll just, have a great time and then have our knees up instead. But so there's got to be around 10.
Yeah.
Maybe 9.
It's a pretty hefty.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of bands that have one really great video and nothing else.
I think particularly me, Kay, and Levi are very much in love with film. I mean, that's my film and music. That's my loves, So I think when the opportunity came to make some music videos, Jay has fun with it as well. We just love it, man.
So tell me about the locations and how are those funded?
By us.
Right.
Just
working hard.
Yeah. Couple of small favors and loans and for legends in the game. Shout out Danny Rose, my uncle. But yeah, I mean mainly by us, really, just on a cheap. I mean, there's no expenditure on actual film costs because we've got the equipment and we've got the people.
Yeah.
So it's just getting there, So like the first one, we went to Morocco. And we just found cheap flights.
Why Morocco?
Because I'd been there the summer before and been to this place in Essaouira where there is this incredible kind of castle or remains of a castle in this like sandy beach, basically, that was I stayed with this guy who had a place called an Art Tell, which basically if you were an artist, you went there and contributed, you would get a cheap stay. And he's some mad guy who wants to create a circus and take it to Palestine and create circus for all the kids there. He's mental, but an absolute legend.
Yeah.
So I've been staying with him the previous summer, and I just had a thought when Jay made me this song. I was like, that's where we've got to do it. Yeah.
What was your contribution to the art tell?
When I stayed there before, we used to go out and busk.
Right.
So he played like several instruments, and
So you and this hotel manager guy?
Yeah.
So what is it? Is it like a multi-room hotel, or is it more like an Airbnb?
It's a converted boat.
Right.
So it used to be a boat. It's called the Yellow Submarine. And it's...
Of course it is.
It's, I guess more of an Airbnb, but very, very nonchalant, very kind of artsy, it's basically just people hanging out in bunk beds, making food, and so when I say contribute, I mean like, if you're an artist, you have to actually like do something in the Yellow Submarine, or if you're a musician, you go out with him and busk and give a portion of the money to him.
I thought you meant you'd have to paint a picture, or you would have to.
It's not. No. It has to be relevant to the place,
right? Okay.
Or if you're a chef, you go and actually cook, Okay. And then you pay like much less money to stay there, and it's cheap anyway because it's Morocco,
Yeah.
But I was there for like 2.5 weeks. Could have stayed for longer.
How much did that cost you?
Oh, I think
before busk.
Before busk.
Yeah.
Rates before.
Let's get into
busk.
the finances.
God, I can't remember, man. But it considerably cheaper than
Enough
the rest
to be
of my
there for
cheap.
2 weeks or more.
It was. I mean, I was in Morocco for 2 months.
Right.
And I had a bit of run-in with the mafia there, so that took out a bit of my finance.
Right.
And
right. No, we're not glossing over that, Jake.
Let's just gloss over that bit.
No.
That probably.
So what was your run-in with the mafia, Jake?
Oh God, man. I was a young white boy in Morocco on my own, vulnerable.
Right.
And I landed in Fez, and I encountered a couple of. I was looking for a bit of smoke, Andy. I'm not going to beat around the bush. And I encountered a couple of lads who were just really nice and just let me hang out with them, and took me to their mum's place to eat food and were just very nice to me. And, in retrospect, probably too nice, but they seemed like really sound geezers. And then after a week or so, they were like, do you want to come to our smoke farm up in the mountains in Katama?
And you went, yeah, of course I do.
I went, yes, please. No, I thought about it for about 15 minutes.
15 seconds.
And then I was so stoned that I just said, yeah, sounds like fun,
Right. How do you say no to that, though?
It's a tough
So
one.
You kind of go, well, that's
a lot of people
interesting
were like,
idea.
why didn't you say no? You're an idiot, And there was obviously that part of my brain that was like, you shouldn't do this. But then there was another part of my brain that was like, there's a few songs in this.
Yeah.
There's a story in this. Maybe you'll get on a podcast with Andy and you get to tell the story.
Well, here we go. It's paid off.
Yeah. Well, I did. I made at least 2 really good songs out of it, so that was worth.
And you're still here. You've still got all your fingers.
Hassle. Just about, yeah. And I tell you what, it's a real thrill getting a gun pointed at you. There's nothing quite like it.
Oh. See, my brain when you said that they offered you this experience, my brain went straight to well, that'd be interesting to see how that works. Right? Let's go and get blazed.
Danger.
It'd just be like, this will be an education, right?
And it was, mate. It
I bet.
Totally was,
So you get to this smoke farm.
Yes.
And then, so you see, is it a smoke farm?
Well, the alarm bells started ringing when we went through this police checkpoint, and there was maybe, there was a few police there, and I was kind of like, okay, what's going on? I was like, no, it's fine. And I was like, okay, what,
How is their English, these guys you're with?
Good, fine, good English. But they basically told me at that point that it was a mafia checkpoint, so that there was an agreement between the mafia and the police that
Right.
it was mafia territory. Police don't go there.
Okay.
So
So they just pay the police off.
yeah.
And they turn a blind eye.
But then once you're in mafia territory, you know, people carrying AKs. There's
right. So you're at your own risk, basically.
Oh,
like
yeah.
a car park. You park your car here, mate. It's at its own risk.
Yeah, it's
But you're the car.
yeah. You are the car.
Enter at your own risk,
It's
basically.
yeah. I mean, it's mayhem up there.
Right.
It's scary, you know, and especially when you're pretty much the only white person there, you get a lot of looks. And I think there were a fair few arguments in Moroccan where they were like, you know, can we use him as a pinata? And they were like, no, he's a paying customer or whatever. Leave him alone.
Right.
So anyway, had a mad time there watching them, you know, process hash and, you know, doing stupid stuff and making these massive meals and living the mafia life. And then at the end of it all, they agreed €100 at the beginning. That was the price for the experience.
Right.
And then at the end of it all, they said, well, you know, we're not sure that quite cuts the mustard. So, you know, can you give us another 400, 500 big ones? To which I kind of said, oh, no. To which they said, well, you're a white person, so, you know, get us the money. And luckily got a couple of people to bail me out, basically. Otherwise,
how did those conversations go? And how the hell did you get them? Did you go, excuse me, I just need to make a phone call? And they went,
no,
oh, okay, yes, no worries. Yeah, we'll leave you to it. What is it?
Yeah,
what is it?
well, pretty much. You know, it was because initially it was kind of like, well, you know, you're white. We know you can source the money.
So they assume because you're
because you're
white,
from the UK
British,
and white, you've
got
have
money.
500 quid lying around.
Right.
Yeah, which in my case wasn't.
The
I mean
case.
that was my budget for the rest of my trip wasn't even that much, you know.
Right.
So and I managed to haggle with them as well. I kind of played the whole. You know, you're really disrespecting me here. I thought we were friends. You know.
Wow.
I
You've
had
got
to,
some
mate.
cojones.
I had to, bruv. Or you know, I even from the people I know, I couldn't have got that together.
Right.
So I had to.
So you in fight or flight at this moment?
Totally.
And that's somewhere in the middle, isn't it? So you're not fighting or running.
I mean, you can't run. There's nowhere to go.
And
So
bullet's
you
faster
kind
than
of
innit?
have to. Yeah, and I'm stoned as well, so it's pretty stressful. There was a night where I was thinking
potentially if
maybe
you
I should
weren't-
just get in a car and drive down the mountain and try and leg it.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know, that's going to end up messy, isn't it? I just need to try and see it out. So I managed to convince them that I was a struggling musician, that all I had was a couple of £100, and they kind of didn't like this. And then I got woken up in the morning that I was meant to be going back with a gun, and they just said, take me to the cash point. How much have you got in there? Take it out. And then they dropped me off on the bottom of the mountain.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you weren't high, do you think you may have panicked a little more? Do you think that would help you, or did it hinder you at that moment?
I think it definitely hindered
Because
me,
it could
mate.
go. I think it could go either way, can't it? You'd be like,
Yeah,
"Oh damn,
maybe.
something's going on here," and you kind of keep your shit together.
Yeah.
Or you just go, "I can't handle this."
Yeah. I mean,
that's character building.
it's a difficult one to say.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
a
you're here.
difficult one to say. Yeah, I'm still here. I didn't actually. I guess what I thought. I rationally thought to myself, I don't think these guys want to kill me. You know, I know they're
Well,
like
you become an issue for them then.
you do become an issue, 100%. But it's like, is it worth?
And 200 is better than nothing, right?
Well, there you
Whatever
go,
you've got
you
is
know.
for the effort of driving you down a mountain to a cash point, sticking
Yeah.
a gun in your back,
Yeah.
and getting 250 or whatever you might have. That is far more attractive than having to kill you.
Yeah.
And deal with.
You know,
what's
it's not
left.
a lot of money, is it? You know, really, in the sense of maybe for them it is, I guess. But you know, well, they're selling, you know, huge amounts of weed to Amsterdam. So even for them, in the sense of things, it's really not. You know, it's more of a side hustle, I think, for
Right.
a couple of their younger recruits to go and find people
probably a
like
way of-
myself
yeah.
and make a bit of extra cash. So
And
I
that's
think
how
if
they make a
anything,
name
he
for
was
themselves.
probably disappointed actually that maybe, you know, the big mafia mama wasn't going to be happy with him because he'd managed to find someone that he couldn't extort the full amount from, you know. But it was weird. I saw them in Fez a few days later, which is where I met them. And they were like, Jake, my friend, you know, what are you saying? Come chill with us. And I'm there shaking like, stay the hell away from me. I thought you were my friends, but no.
Wow.
Yeah, it was mad.
That is, I wasn't expecting that story.
I wasn't expecting to tell that story, mate.
Big thanks to everyone listening this week. That was Jake Hight on the Giant Pod with me, Andy Rintmore. Please don't forget to check out his music.